and welcome to the First Issue Club. We are your weekly comic book podcast where, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. Now, what you probably did was got on the internet today and thought, can you have ethical consumption under capitalism? And yeah, when it comes to comics, this is all kosher, babe. We got all kinds of people dropping their cash and feeling good about it for Hush Tua this week, bringing money back. The supply was there, the demand is there, and we're getting all the variants and all the value you could ever want out of your Loeb and Lee duo comic coming back to the pages of Batman. We've got maybe a healthy serving of crow that's been cooking in the oven all week that a cast member of First Issue Club may have to consume a little later.
I brought my bib, and I don't know if I'll need it.
So we're going to get there. We're going to talk about Hush Tua later today on the podcast after we do our normal thing of talking about some comic book news, but a lot of awesome first issues this week. I know Andy read Absolute Martian Manhunter. I read You'll Do Bad Things. There's a couple others. A new Mouse Guard book that you might have read too, Andy.
Yep, I read a lot.
A lot of good first issues this week. Oh, in
case anyone cares.
No, we're not worried about you.
Cool,
and,
appreciate it.
And we also want to mention that there was a big book out this week that Matthew Rosenberg wrote, right? That we're not going to cover today because we talked to him about it for like an hour a couple weeks ago. So if you want to know more about that awesome book, go back in time in the First Issue Club archives. Yeah, that's right. And dig that one out. Okay, so a very special roll call today. I'm Mike D.
I'm Greg.
And I am Vargas.
And I'm Chris Hacker of the Oblivion Bar.
How'd you get
why
in
am I
here?
Who knows? Why? I don't know how I got invited. I just found the link online and I just popped in.
Hey, that's what happened last week.
Just like the editor of The Atlantic got on the text
That's
messaging
right.
for all the war plans for Yemen, Chris Hacker somehow got on the text chain for the link for the
Whether
Riverside.
you're bombing Yemen or reading Martian Manhunter, group chats always doing the most.
The group chat always hates bailing Europe out.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here for the most important part of the show, which is when we talk about how good Space Camper IPA is.
Yeah.
You had a chance to try it this past weekend. What did you think, Chris?
Well, I can confirm firsthand that Space Camper is not only delicious, it's not only refreshing, it's not only just a beer, but it is a journey. I can confirm that officially.
Boom.
So, it was great. I actually had Space Camper and I had Fundamental Evil, which you guys talked about with Adam a couple weeks ago on the show. And gosh darn, is that beer not just an absolute ride? I will say I had
10% of a problem.
I had 3 small little cups at our little after party at Planet. And boys, if I wasn't doing a little dance there in the room, you really got the juices flowing. I'll tell you that. So
I will say, you mentioned Planet, and that was last weekend. You were in town for that. We just got done talking on the Patreon about our Planet recap and how much fun it was. Mm-hmm. The after party made me feel 1,000 years old because I think this was the first time that it was open to people 17 years and older.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
And so I my bones were extra creaky at the Boulevard after party.
Yeah, it made me feel a lot of things. It made me feel old because of, again, the demographic, but it also made me feel really insecure about my sexuality because everyone in there was a furry besides us. And I was like, man, am I that of a straight arrow that I can't just expose myself to a whole new spectrum of just of things? But no, it was fun though. And I will say that we even got, I was sort of joking that it made the beer had me doing a little dance, but we were actually dancing and it was a good time. Good DJ in there too.
It is funny. You think about Comic-Con as like this place with a bunch of like really nervous people who don't really like put themselves out there. But then you actually go to Comic-Con and you're like, yeah, these are all people letting their freak flag fly. And then you go to Comic-Con after dark and it's like, okay, no holds barred. This is
Extra
like
freaky.
yeah, this is like extra freaky. There was like immediately a dance circle and people taking their clothes off and like walking around on their hands, and like it got wild quick.
Kind of bedlam for a minute.
That was my partner's first analysis of the event, was like, wow, people are actually getting crazy. They're actually dancing. Like she didn't expect that from sort of the community that we were around most of the day at the con. They were like, she thought people were just gonna be sitting in a corner talking about their Tamagotchi or whatever. But no,
boy
they
nerds
were actually
on one side, girl nerds on the other, unafraid to dance.
Yeah, they looked like freaks and geeks. But no, it was actually it was a cool group to be around. I'll say that.
It's funny to see people who like can't always feel like they can be themselves to the fullest, especially in environments like this, and then to come to a place where they feel really safe and surrounded by like-minded people who will support them. It's just one of those moments where you're just like, God, how cool is it to be part of this community and like to see stuff like this happen? It's just like so enjoyable to sit back and like people watch and just like enjoy the vibe of it. It was a great time. So yeah, hop over to our Patreon if you want to hear more about the weekend we had and some other fun activation stuff we did. We did a little choose your own adventure game with Boulevard and had fun people like Scotty Young and Jason Aaron and CB Sobolski swing by, and that's always a blast to have some of your favorite creators play a weird game you made.
I actually got an email from Chris, who runs Planet, that said that game saved the weekend. Like, no one was going to come to Planet Comic-Con, and then they saw the advertisements on our IG and Boulevard's IG, and they said they had an overwhelming response to the Choose Your Own Adventure comic book recommendation game, and they thanked us. They're going to give us the key to the city.
So, we saved the con. It's coming back next year officially. They've
Not
announced
Kansas City,
that.
just a city.
Thank God for Fick. I
If
played
I
and
had
I
a
got
nickel
Jason
for
Aaron.
every time I heard that, I would have 2 nickels.
I played it. So I was going to ask you guys about this on the Patreon, but I might as well ask you here. So we played, and I basically just chose like the most erratic, adventure-filled route that you could take in the game, and I got Jason Aaron. And why was that? Is there any particular reason why, Mike, when you hand me the card, that I got Jason?
Yeah, so each of the comics was on a spectrum of like choices, and the choices you made represented the comic book outcome that you got. So one of the funny things was that we had this like kind of like altruistic adventurer sort of route, and then this like altruistic safe harbor. Yeah, kind of like altruistic coward kind of route, right? And then we have this like selfish, violent kind of route, and those were some interesting people who ended up getting that. But it's like when you think about like the different types of people that like play the different types of roles in D&D, and they gravitate towards like these zany choices or the safer choices, like all those little micro decisions ultimately influenced the book recommendation that you would get. But almost just because these are like common choices, almost everybody got altruistic adventurer or altruistic coward. Is it like a mean way to put it? But like playing it safe, making like, let's say like making like the smart conservative decisions in the game, which led us to recommend Twig a lot. And and then we did Bug Wars a lot. That was kind of like, I'm having fun, but I'm a nice person. person.
And Sea of Stars.
That was Bug Wars.
Sea of Stars was another one that was like right in the middle. There's a interesting matrix there that's probably way more interesting to me than anyone else on Earth. So I'll shut up now.
Hush.
But there was a rhyme and reason to it.
Yeah.
You could see as it was playing out that people were kind of battling with themselves on like who they were as people.
Yeah.
And
Andy was good about being like, you're thinking about it too hard. Otherwise, people would have like never left the table.
Yeah. Oh, I got to call my therapist on this one.
Honestly,
fucking question.
Tarot was worse with the people like not picking things. It's like action or sci-fi, man. Just pick one so I can write a thing on a thing and you can walk away.
Oh, Star Wars or Star Trek? I don't know. And it's just like you kind of do. Actually, is it gun or swords? What do you want?
I'll say those were fun moments though, to make somebody pick Firefly or Star Trek, and they're just like, oh, And like we always like it's just fun to like have a laugh with people who like find themselves in that moment and are like, damn, I never thought about choosing between these two things.
But no, it was a great weekend, and the game went off like a hitch, and Chris got to hang out, and Planet was really, really, really fun this year.
And shout out to our sponsor Boulevard for having us and hosting us at their booth and facilitating such a fun weekend and hosting that after party and all that fun stuff that happened at the con.
And shout out to the rain for not happening.
Yeah, it was a nice day. We were able to walk out of the con and go get some lunch at one point. It was great. It all held up.
Yeah, every year it seems that it rains on Planet, but
not to mention you got to get out of that convention center because the BO was intense on the show floor. My gosh, that was like one of the very first things that Liv said when we were walking through the show floor was like, it is sharp through this particular area right here.
The
like
stank is real.
That's cons, baby. That's you got to take the year with the bad, you know.
It gets hot. Everybody's sweating in their mascot uniforms.
Right. Listen, you can't have this many comics and Amy Jo Johnson at this show and not have a couple folks that don't know how to shower.
Just her alone.
Right.
Yeah, but Katie Sackhoff was there too. Tori Spelling. There was
David Tennant.
True.
He makes me sweat.
Oh, one of the things that I thought was really fun that we didn't mention on the Patreon was that some of the celebrities that were there that played characters that were popular would do the announcements over the speakers every once in a while in character. So you had Rick and Morty, Andy Serkis did one as Gollum telling everybody to get the hell out of Comic-Con. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I saw Dora the Explorer do hers at one point. So
that's right, yeah. But we'll tarry no further. I know that on the docket for today, we are going to talk about the Doomsday casting that happened. Was it 2 days ago or something?
Yesterday was the live stream. And
it took, I want to say 6 hours to get done.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton. There's like at least 30 some names. Some names you're very, very familiar with and are totally expecting to see. Like Chris Hemsworth's there, right? What I'm thinking is like what Andy wanted to do was talk about the names that aren't included, but I want to talk about the names that are here that are really spicy for me. That are just like, for instance, Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
The Kelsey Grammer's Beast is officially going to be in Doomsday, which is
Hank McCoy,
huge. And amongst that, you get, I think, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen. So confirmed FX X-Men are entering the fold.
Yeah.
Including James Marsden, which is like absolutely bananas.
The
Thoughts on that alone?
He had to take a little time away from Sonic to do this movie really quick.
The more shocking one to me is Alan Cumming. Because
he notoriously hated that Nightcrawler makeup, right?
Yeah, he swore he would never come back because he hated getting in the makeup. So Disney must have paid out, or his career must have taken a nosedive.
Well, he is hosting.
He's doing the Leftovers, right, on Peacock. Is that what it's called? The Leftovers, maybe. I know my partner loves it. She's a big fan of it. But yeah, it's funny when she was watching it. I was like, yeah, that's Alan Cumming. Obviously, he's done a lot of things, but I was like, he's this, and I showed her, Alan as Nightcrawler. She's like, what? That's crazy. So yeah.
And notoriously someone else who hated getting into makeup for these films, Rebecca Romijn.
Right. Do you think they're really going to make very similar to Kelsey Grammer from the Marvels? Do you think they're just going to put her in like you think they're going to recreate Mystique as like a CGI character?
Yeah.
And then give her the Rebecca Romijn voice? You think is that possible?
I think the craziest thing that's going to happen to her is some of those white dot stickers on her face.
They could just really take her face.
Yeah. They'll handle it all in post.
They'll do the Chris Evans thing from the first Avenger. They'll just put his face or her face on someone else's body.
Someone else.
So funny.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Did Mystique die in those original X-Men movies?
That's a good question.
I'm trying to remember if they killed her.
She got shot.
And this might be one of those things where like this is a Mystique, but not the Mystique. I think they might be separating this, like, you know what I mean?
What if they take Jennifer Lawrence's body and they put Rebecca Romaine's face on Jennifer Lawrence's body?
Oh, I see you've been reading my fan fiction.
How did you get access to that drive?
Listen, if Scotty Young turned it down to draw, I don't know why you're reading it.
Yeah. So you were mentioning in Vargas while you were away a moment ago. We were talking about, like, you want to talk about the people that weren't included in this.
So more interesting, I think, than the folks that are announced are the conspicuous absences of a lot of major Marvel characters.
Can I give you a list of folks that have been confirmed for the movie that were not in this video?
Yeah, totally.
Tom Holland, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, Benedict Cumberbatch, let's see here, Tatiana Maslany, Mark Ruffalo, and Elizabeth Olsen have all been confirmed for the film, but were not part of this video.
Oh, well,
Wow,
that's like most of who I had on my list then.
Yeah.
Okay,
I love that Tatiana Maslany's going to be in it. That's awesome.
Yeah, super jazzed for that.
But still, that excludes all of the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? That's all the Defenders are not in there, right? So no Daredevil, no Luke Cage, no Iron Fist, no Jessica Jones, no Moon Knight.
No Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, no Hawkeye. No
Dupe.
No Dupe.
We saw the Dupe concept art.
I don't think that's real, and that's a shame, which I'm pissed off about, to be honest.
Because Marvel didn't contact you to play Dupe.
One, yes, and two, why even tempt me with that? And I know you're not going to do it.
No,
I don't even care if, like, Chris Pine voices it, because I know that's who you're shooting for. Marvel.
It'll be Chris Pratt again.
Chris Pine voice for Dupe.
Chris Pratt's gonna be the voice of Super Mario, Dupe, and some who else? Garfield. He was Garfield as well.
You heard him voice Garfield. Now hear him voice Dupe, Marvel's newest kitty who hates Mondays.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're going to slowly roll this stuff out as time goes on. There's going to be a couple, like Tom Holland. There's no way that Spider-Man's not in these movies. Chris Pratt, they've already sort of said that Star-Lord's going to be back in some capacity. The rest of the Guardians, I think it would be too easy to include Groot and Rocket, but Gamora and Nebula and Drax. Well, it's funny because Drax, why am I spacing his name right now?
Batista.
Yeah, thank you. Dave Bautista has said that he's not coming back to the MCU. If James Gunn's not involved in the project, he will not be in the film. So I wonder if maybe that's like across the board outside of, the CGI characters. We'll see. Will Poulter is his gosh, why am I spacing everybody's
Adam
name
Warlock,
right now?
yeah.
Thank you,
Adam
Warlock.
Warlock,
Jesus, yeah. Adam Warlock, will he be back? Will Mantis, will she be back? Like, there's a lot of people from that corner. And Benedict Cumberbatch, he actually made a goof the other day. He mentioned that he was not
goof.
Classic Dr. Goof over here. Said he was like, I'm not in Doomsday, but then he had to walk it back and say, I'm actually in it. So who knows with him? So
that's not really a goof. That's just more of a whoopsie daisy.
Doesn't qualify as a goof.
Yeah. Ooh, actually, I am. Kevin called me and said I had to tell people that I was in this movie.
It'd be weird if the Hulk's not in this, and then also currently Scarlet Witch is dead, for all we know, right? Like,
well, okay, so interesting point. In the recent TVA comic that Marvel's been doing, she shows up, and it was confirmed by the illustrator of the book. I forget their name, but that MCU Wanda is in some sort of cryostasis at the canonical TVA.
is this book part of is it canon for the MCU?
Well, yeah, it's canon for both 616 and the MCU.
People are not going to like that.
I don't understand. This is the problem with whenever you had Kevin Feige go up on stage and talk about how the MCU is 616 and the Marvel Universe and the comics is 616. This is the issue, because now we don't know which one is 616. They're both 616 somehow, even though that can't be accurate.
Well,
so
the MCU inside of the Marvel Comics 616 has its own numbering. Inside of the MCU's own universe, it is 616.
Yeah.
What seems like an easier way to explain all this to everybody is if we're entertaining
Magic.
a world wherein Beast is coming to our dimension from another dimension. Why couldn't that dimension's Wanda, who's more associated with the X-Men than the Avengers, just come over and just be like, we found a way to get her back. It's through this like fun loophole. Who cares? Like, we love her as a character.
Yeah. See,
She's back in our lives.
This is the
'Cause that'd be
problem with the
smart.
multiverse. This is
Yeah.
the issue, is that it's an infinite, it's a mystery box, like you could do whatever you want with it, and I think it was Jonathan Hickman. I remember him saying this at one point, talking about his Secret Wars with Assad Ribic, that the only interesting, once you introduce the multiverse, the only interesting thing to do with it is to destroy it. So that's what they're
Yeah.
doing, right? Like they
Yeah.
have to destroy this fun box, because if they don't, they just have
There's no
nothing.
rules.
Nothing means anything, right?
No
Like none of this
stakes.
matters, right?
Yep.
I'm
Too
not
true.
totally thrilled that Channing Tatum's back as well.
You didn't love his gambit?
You're not?
He's about to make a
really.
name for himself right here.
I'm about to make a name for myself.
Who was your dialect coach?
I feel,
Channing Tatum.
I feel like he was immediately like an iconic role. It had so many iconic moments for how little he was in that movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, they gotta give us more. Come on.
Yeah, I think that was their biggest issue, is they were nervous about it, and then Deadpool did it as a joke, and we were all immediately on board with it. And they're like, okay, I guess we run with it. I guess, like, we're doing this.
I think it was extremely charming. What you're saying, Greg, is that maybe it works in this capsule where it can be fun and silly,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily want it in your big, heavy MCU movie.
Well, because I think he's just going to be immediately used as like humor bait.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's just going to be the punching bag for all of this. And that doesn't exactly work if you don't have a Deadpool character to like riff on it.
There are a couple of characters on this list that are exactly that. Like, it feels like they are only included to be comedic relief. I'm thinking Red Guardian will be that. You've got U.S. Agent will probably be a version of that. I'm going to guess Ant-Man will probably be some version of that, where they just sort of come in, say a quip, and walk away, right? So,
Yeah, you can't give that much screen time to all of these people. It's too much. So
we could even see Joseph Quinn's Human Torch be that, depending on how he is in the movie. Usually he is the one to like say a line and then, walk away, kind of thing.
Yep.
So do you
Whilst on fire.
Could we go? I know, Greg, you were wanting to wait on this, but do you mind if I just sort of go through this list and we sort of talk about who is interesting?
Sure.
Yeah. And this is in order from like who they announced it by. I think that's kind of interesting how they split it all up. But you have Chris Hemsworth, Vanessa Kirby, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Latia, Wright. You had Paul Rudd, Wyatt Russell, Tanakh Huerta. You had Iban Moss-Bachrach. You had Simu Liu, Florence Pugh, Kelsey Grammer, Lewis Pullman, who we'll see in the Thunderbolts as Sentry. You had Danny Ramirez, Joseph Quinn, David Harbour, Winston Duke, Hanno John Kamen, Tom Hiddleston's back as Loki, God Loki. Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are both back. As we said, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romaine, no Stamos this time around. You had James Marsden, Channing Tatum, Pedro Pascal, and then they ended it with Robert Downey Jr. and he came in and sort of showcased everybody and did a little, motion. So,
I don't think he's Doom. I don't think he's the Doctor Doom that we're gonna get to know and loathe.
Interesting take.
And it's a little controversial, but I don't buy it. I think this is the biggest red herring. And just like Hush Tua, I'm excited to eat my words, folks.
No, I'm with you, Greg. The more I like see about all this cast of characters, I'm getting the same vibe as when DC did the second Suicide Squad movie, and they had this huge cast, and the first thing they did was kill all of the half the known people on that list.
Yeah, you had like Pete Davidson was one of them, and Weasel was who we eventually see survives at the end of the film. But like you had all these people that were like promoted as the team, and then more than half of them are killed in the first scene of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think Marvel will kill half of them, but maybe they show up on as a a second dimension, and it's like, oh my god, look at all these X-Men and Fantastic Four, and then the the two universes crash together, and that's what teases up Secret Wars.
And it makes Access.
Some folks are going to die, and I'm curious for you guys, of the list of everyone I just listed, who do you think is going to get the axe? Because I think people are sort of seeing this as like a soft reboot for the MCU. Again, the only interesting thing to do with a multiverse is to destroy it. At the end of all this, I think the plan is to reboot this universe in a very soft way where we can recast an Iron Man, recast a Thor down the way. I mean, does Hemsworth make it out of this? Does Hiddleston make it out of this? Like a lot of the originals, Mark Ruffalo.
Black Panther, gone.
Yeah. Is she gone? I mean, she's an anti-vaxxer, so that's an easy axe if we wanted to do that. Do we have like David Harbour he could survive Thunderbolts and then get killed in this movie kind of thing?
I'm going to say immediately Simu Liu survives.
Yeah, he's
like,
gung-ho.
Yeah, I think he was so good in Shang-Chi, and his star has risen, and they've barely done anything with him. I think people like him a lot, and it just seems like they need him to be a little more center stage in some of the upcoming stuff, and I think people would dig that. And also think about like Shang-Chi kind of felt like a fun genre movies at times, and I think you could do just a lot with that character. You could have really small stories with that character, really big stories with that character. I would hate for them to throw him away in that role.
Plus, they announced Shang-Chi too, so.
Yeah.
Is that happening?
John Walker's done.
Yep.
I lose track of these things so quick now.
You don't see a Taskmaster in this list, which made me think that she might die in Thunderbolts.
Oh, I thought she was confirmed.
I didn't see her chair.
I see Ghost.
Ghost is there. I could see. Honestly, I'm just gonna to make a pun here. I'm just gonna X all of the Fox X-Men. I think they're gonna sacrifice themselves in some sort of heroic way. An incursion is happening on their universe, and the Fantastic Four have to get off that universe. So they, whatever. I don't know, but I think there's rumors that the Fantastic Four film is actually going to be that Galactus destroys that universe, and the only people that survive from that universe are RDJ's Doctor Doom, if he is playing Doctor Doom, and the Fantastic Four. They end up in the 616 universe, and that brings them to Doomsday. So who knows? I guess we'll find out in July. But yeah,
I'm more excited to see what the red herring is for Thunderbolts. They're hiding something in that movie that is creeping me out.
A lot of fun. That's what they're hiding, Greg.
So do you think like the stinger for that movie is going to be like mind-blowing or something?
I think the stinger of Thunderbolts is the Fantastic Four showing up out of nowhere. And then we lead right into the Fantastic Four movie of them in their wacky capers and how they get to Earth at the end of their movie.
Oh, does Sentry like rip a hole between realities or something?
I mean, yeah. And
sure.
Explain to me where the Avengers are in all this.
Right.
The lead character says that the Avengers are gone.
Right. Can I paint a picture for you guys? It just popped in my. I've had some kind of scenario about this, but it just popped in my head because you mentioned about Thunderbolts. So everyone listening right now, if you could, let me take you on a quick journey. Close your eyes. Listen to this.
Lean back.
So Sentry, everything is saved at the end of the Thunderbolts. The team is together, and all of a sudden they see a hole open up in the sky, and they all go towards it, and they run towards it, and they get closer. They notice that it's the 1960s spaceship. And as they get closer, let's say Bucky puts his hand on the spaceship to open it, all of a sudden an orange fist punches through the ship and cut to black right there. End it. Yeah. And that brings us to, the next, whatever happens in Doomsday.
Totally. Yeah.
So that would be cool.
Or let's paint this picture. Ooh. Same scenario, same 60s ship, hand punches through. Wolverine claws come out of it too.
Oh, so it's Deadpool and Wolverine.
And also
the
Batman
X-Men
is
ship.
there.
Now it's a 1960s X-Men ship. It's
Well, see-
what's their plane called? The
The Blackbird.
not the Blackbird. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another two names that aren't listed in the cast or in this video, but are confirmed as Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. So
Oh, they're confirmed for the movie.
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely in it for sure.
Do they have enough money at this point? What the hell?
This is gonna be a $500 million movie. Like they're
Oh
gonna
my god!
And then
Just
also
Yeah, they need to make $1 billion.
and think it like this is not even they're not even getting their nut with this movie. That's gonna be Secret Wars the next year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know? So some people are not gonna be in this movie. There's no because just like in Infinity War, I think Captain America was sidelined. Ant-Man wasn't in the film at all. There were a couple people that just didn't get much screen time, and then they brought everybody in for Endgame. So I don't know.
I think a lot of times I feel like the stinger moments that are really cool sometimes relate to a comic book moment that you can be like, okay, I'm in the know, I know what's coming, and then it's fun for everybody to go online and be like, what does that mean? Like, what are the repercussions of this person? And I think one of the funnest stingers you could do in one of these upcoming movies is Miles buying the cheeseburger. And
Yeah.
and then you're just like,
Yeah.
shit, I know how important that cheeseburger is.
Yeah. When are we
And
gonna
like
get the
one,
Molecule
you
Man?
just
Like who is gonna be Owen Reese?
we talked about maybe John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Isn't
Yeah.
he supposed to be the ape guy with the receding hairline?
Yes.
The
Red.
I know that's like rumored.
Yeah.
The
Red
cosmonaut
whatever.
or
Oh,
something.
is
The
he Red Ghost?
cosmonaut.
I
Red
think
Ghost,
that Red
yeah.
Ghost is the prevailing theory, but
Oh,
please
I
make
saw
him
him
Molecule
in
Man. I would
Right?
love that.
I saw him in the Fantastic Four trailer, and I thought he was going to be Molecule Man after that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I also heard there's rumors that he could be like old man Franklin Richards, and he's just from a future where he
Yeah.
knows why Galactus is on Earth, and Galactus is on Earth for Franklin, not for the Fantastic Four. So,
A
lot of
so many
things.
fun things that could happen. Yeah.
ooh.
He could
See,
be the Stan Lee cameo.
he's
They
like
just recasted
Excelsior.
him.
Yeah. I will say that
Excelsior.
this is where my money train ends with the MCU. It's Secret Wars, but it's these two films. You have my money, MCU, until Secret Wars, and then we start making decisions from here going forward. Like
As far as what?
I can't keep giving because I don't know if we've talked about this live on the show, but for folks that listen to the Oblivion Bar, if you listen to our review of Brave New World, I despised that movie to a degree that for some reason a lot of folks either didn't understand or didn't love that take. But the continual quality of the MCU has been waning, right? Like it's a valley. Loki 2 is great, and then the Marvels is pretty. I think it's fine, but it's not incredible. And then you've got like Agatha All Along, which I thought was pretty good, but not incredible. And then like I didn't love Brave New World. Obviously, all of the sequels to Black Panther, Thor, and Doctor Strange were, I think, and you guys can
Not
correct me
great.
if I'm wrong. Not great, right? Like not incredible. Guardians 3 was great, but like we're just getting peaks and valleys here, and I don't know. I have all these books behind me that I know I love, right? And these movies, the only way to let these folks know that the quality needs to be fixed is with our wallets. So
Well, and I'm just gravitating towards the shows a lot more too, and I think there's something to the fact that like just like the comics, the shows let us like sink into these stories a little more and explore the narratives and get more personal with the characters, and they set a tone in a way that just like waiting for a movie every few years, like it's just hard, especially with as big as it's gotten. It's hard to have those sort of moments that we love from comic books in film. And I don't know, part of me is like, do a few less blockbusters. Maybe they do just like massive movies, right? But the things that's keeping us in for the ride are like the TV shows as we're going through.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I would love it if they went to the method of maybe they do 3 major television shows a year, 12 episode television shows, and maybe one movie, like one big movie where they bring a couple of those characters into one movie, kind of like
That'd
a Thor, Thor Ragnarok style, where they have Hulk and Thor and all the people together. But yeah, I don't know. It really bothered. I don't want to get on a big tirade about this, but like Brave New World, it felt like it was made for everyone and no one at the same time. You know what I mean? Like they could have said so many interesting things about the role of Captain America, and they kept the girl who played Sabra in it, and like all the things. It really bothered me on a level that I couldn't shake, because I should love a movie that has Red Hulk in it, right? And I should love every Captain America movie, but I just couldn't get behind it, and I just have a weird inkling that this is the trend we're going towards with the MCU.
I think, Chris, they just needed that movie not to be bad. Because this is like the first movie that they're like back. You know, like Wolverine and Deadpool seemed like an end cap to a lot of other shit. And they just needed their first step into like a new direction, not to be completely like a bomb. And people saw it, and like I think if you're a studio head, you'll take middling. You know what I mean? Like you'll take middling with like returns on money. But
I hate that that's where we are. That's sort of my point, is that I hate that.
No,
that's,
yeah, totally.
Right. Like that's the benchmark now is fine. You know, like these movies were never highbrow, rosebud type of movies. This wasn't Citizen Kane ever, right? But like they were at least shooting for something. They had singular voices behind them, and yeah, they were a little grayscaled and weren't as poppy color wise. But at least I cared about Chris Evans, and I cared about RDJ, and I cared about Chris Evans. Honestly, Mike, to talk about what you were saying earlier, I like Simu Liu and I like Anthony Mackie, but I have a hard time finding another Avengers character that I care about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had like 3 or 4 of them back in the day. And this is the worst part, is that there was a point a couple months last month when the movie came out that I remember thinking like, am I just like awakening to this? Am I just now, have these movies always been bad and I just am now realizing
the veil's
it?
been lifted.
Right. But I honestly don't think that's true. Like we recently rewatched all the way through the Infinity Saga with my partner Olivia. And I just am like, these movies are awesome. Like even Iron Man 2, Dark World, like these movies are awesome. I don't care. Like I have completely flipped the script on like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor, Dark World.
Love and Thunder.
Not Love and Thunder. That's a crime against humanity. But like these movies that I thought for a long time were not great, I'm like, wow, if I could get another Iron Man 2 today, that would make a couple months for me.
That's what I'm betting Thunderbolts on for me, because like everything I've seen about Thunderbolts, I'm just like, this looks fucking different and just rad. So I'm kind of putting a lot of chickens in that basket, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you guys, one of the big problems I think the MCU has come with is all of these movies used to have like a Jon Favreau behind them or a Joe and Anthony Russo behind them, right? The best MCU movie is Winter Soldier. And those guys went on to make the best Avengers movies, right?
Right.
And they don't have those people anymore. And the last time
they had Sam Raimi behind Doctor Strange.
He was a hired gun though.
As of when though, I'm not sure like I agree with that, because
so that's what I was gonna say.
Chloe Zhao was awesome on Eternals,
but people didn't like that movie, so they're not gonna hire her to make another one.
That's maybe what it is. I also really liked the director of Nia DaCosta, who directed the Marvels.
Yeah,
I think she's awesome.
Yes, but that's why we're getting all these middling movies, is because the last couple of times they've tried to have our tours make Marvel movies, they have not put butts in seats. So you get cool ideas in Brave New World, like, it was a political thriller, but then you get somebody in there who throws in like the wet fart of a fight scene between Red Hulk and Captain America at the end of the movie, and like that's what you end up with, is a movie that's kind of a wet fart. And like, tell me the name of the person that directed it. I don't know.
Julian Onan, I think is his name, or something like but it's only because
Julian not going to work here anymore.
Well, and is Julian going to come back to direct Captain America 4 or
Please
5,
God,
whatever?
no.
Like,
we're into the territory of every other comic book podcast ever, and who've had this conversation like 40 million times.
We're trying to go viral,
so I'm gonna pull the ripcord. I
Mike.
think.
Get us out of here. Pull us out of this rut, please.
The proverbial FIC Kane has entered the screen and is now pulling us all off.
Let's get to comics, because we're 40 minutes in already.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
quick though, Diamond did get bought, but that's it.
Let's talk about more good news.
Yeah, Diamond
for-
getting bought is like the most boring comic news I've ever heard in my life. That's my take on that. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's not like it would have been fun if Todd McFarlane bought it. It's like some other
Rob
fucking
Liefeld.
company. Who cares
Oh,
what they do
goddamn.
with it? I don't care if it succeeds or fails or whatever now.
You're so right, Mike. Honestly, so if anybody has anybody here, I don't know if I've ever talked to you guys about this, but has anyone here worked for a comic shop before?
No.
Okay.
Not to their knowledge.
It's if you have anybody listening right now, if you've worked at a comic shop, you probably agree with this on some level that Diamond is the fucking worst. And all I wanted for them was to fail so that something better could come around and sweep them from underneath them. But here's the thing is that now that Alliance has bought it, we're going to, that, the term you fuck around, you find out. Sometimes the devil is the devil. It's better than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
So we're going to see what Alliance does with this, and we're going to see what Lunar and Penguin do with all of this. Like, it's them, right? It's those three. It's Alliance, Penguin, and Lunar going forward. So it's nice that when Diamond, because they had the monopoly, right? They had the monopoly on the industry, and now there's three of them. So maybe this is better. Maybe this is what something is better, but I don't know. We're going to have to find out. There's really no way of knowing yet.
Yep.
To comics.
To
Comics.
Speaking,
Our headliner is Hush. I'll pass to you, Vargas.
I was gonna say, speaking of the thing that every other comic book podcast is talking about.
I know we have to do
They're
it
not
though.
going to be talking about it like this.
So
Hush Tua.
the event of our lifetimes is upon us, and Hush
The event
2.
of the lifetime that's been told is the event of our lifetime.
Did you guys
2 is
talk
on
about the
shelves.
commercial they put out?
Oh,
Talk
did
about
we
that?
talk about the commercial?
The slow
Like, this
walk
is
to
a
the couch
fucking
to take
release of a
nap.
car. Like, what is going on here?
So the one thing I want to talk about the cover is, did you guys notice that it says Hush right there on the bottom? HUSH.
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh.
Look at that.
And that's the
Oh.
coolest thing about this book.
Jim eat shit.
Greg.
Jim Lee is at the top of his
Greg.
game.
Just tell me to eat shit.
Yeah.
Never been better.
I also bought the Super Party variant.
What's the Super Party variant?
What?
Oh, okay. White cover with the gold logo.
And it glows in the dark. And it says Hush 2.
Vargas, did you buy the
Oh.
magazine? Or not even magazine. It's like treasury size edition. Did you
Yeah,
get
there's
that
a
I-
huge one.
Almost bought it for Greg.
one? Okay.
Oh, man.
Aw.
But it was like $15.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I know how much our friendship is worth.
I saw so many people posing with the large one on social media today, and I say let's start the conversation there. Like, whatever you think of it, this got people's asses into comic shops, and people are excited to buy a comic book today, and that rules.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yep.
I
We
will
need
not
that.
take that away from this book. I refuse to do that.
It is something to be said about, talking about movies and going into comics where the gimmicky stuff, it gets folks in the shop, right? And hopefully there's somebody out there that went to the comic shop and picked up Hush 2 because they heard things about it, and they just so happen to also pick up You'll Do Bad Things, #1, or picked up, the new Absolute Martian Manhunter, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Like, that is the hope,
Yep. Totally. Let's get in to Hush 2 itself. I don't want to do like a bunch of like context and like backstory of how we got here. Like, this is what Batman, like around issue 600 from like 2003. These two did an initial 12-issue arc in Batman that introduced Hush, and now they're coming back to do a second go at that same
608 to
thing.
619.
608 to 619. Great.
Do we know how much time's passed?
It was
In
2002.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Like in the story.
Oh, no.
Like, is there like a
It reads like
2
it's
weeks later?
It reads like it's just the next thing that happened after Chip Zdarsky left. Like,
We've had Failsafe. We've had Death Metal. We've
Okay.
had
All right.
we've
So
had the
make sure.
wedding. We've had all these things.
Yeah.
R.I.P. We've had all
Greg,
these things.
they don't want you to know how much time has passed because then everything falls apart.
Yeah.
It's timeless. Hush is timeless.
Yep.
Yeah.
although
Um,
speaking of that, of the timeless thing, I thought it was really interesting the way that they made it a Joker book. Like, it's a 6-issue arc, and issue 1 is a Joker book. It has almost nothing to do with Hush. And there's a ton of throwbacks to all these classic Batman stories.
It did make this comic feel particularly accessible and like classic right away.
Yeah.
And especially like Jim Lee's artwork did get me in my feels, and it was one of those things where like this guy hasn't missed a step. Like
Those cross hatches are still hatching.
Oh my God, I know. It's crazy to see someone who's like hasn't done like interiors on a regular basis this long just like come back and just like slay like he always did. Like I loved the interiors of this thing.
It's something to be said about both this.
Greg's red in the face.
I'm always in this room. I'm always red. Yeah, I'm just so.
This isn't
pissed.
like I'm just ready for you to have an opposite take of us.
Yeah. So the thing to be said about this team and Hush the first time around, and then this time around, what sounds like from everybody that we've talked about so far is that Loeb and Lee are not afraid to go big, which is really cool. Because I like it when they're just like, you know what, fuck it. Comics are cool. Let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Do we have Poison Ivy wearing kryptonite lipstick? Do we have a Batman versus Superman fight? Do we have the Red Hood showing up pre Under the Hood storyline? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do all that, right? And then with this, do we spoil this at all?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Do we kill the Joker? Is that something that we're gonna do? So
there were brutally violent panels that like immediately I was like, these old dudes are not playing it safe. Like there is a scene where Hush has like this oral apparatus in Joker's mouth and is cranking his jaw wider and wider as like pages go on. And it is just like, it gave me like full body tingles
for our video people.
Yeah, it's
showing the Tootsies for free.
It's so gnarly. And I was like, salute to you guys for going there, for being in like your 60s and going there. That's awesome.
This is almost like two like old uncles or even grandpas that got back on the Harleys, and went for a ride.
Is the wild hogs moment?
They're going to get it up to 70 miles per hour, definitely. Like there's no way they're not going to. At least for like a half a mile. But then they're going to take it back down to 40 and cruise.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long can these guys ride at 70 miles an hour?
Right. Well, it sounds like they've been working on this for a couple years. Like this isn't something they just started like a year ago.
Yeah, I think initially when they started announcing this thing, they said that Jim Lee was like 75% done with everything. So like,
Albert Moy was selling covers or pages of this before the book even came out.
Right, which is like the reassurance of just like, hey, you're not going to be waiting doomsday clock time limits for these issues to come out. Which, I was happy to see that. And, as Mike said earlier, I'm happy to see that this got readers either back into comic book shops or, new readers to look into it. So that's all cool. So far,
much like Rogue, I sense a huge butt coming.
No
problems. Can we just cut the shit, Greg?
Yeah, I want to hear this. I want to hear the real take.
Say what it is you're sitting on.
Because I think I'm going to be kind of in the same boat as you, Greg. So I want you to start this conversation.
Okay. All right. It's fine. Like this wasn't groundbreaking. When I cracked open this page, I wasn't immediately transported to high school of just like fucking Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb getting in here and just beating the shit out of people. I don't know who is the population of Hush people that are just like, fucking finally, my guy is back. My Whisper King is back, and he's going to be saying some weird shit at soft tones. This is what I'm here for Batman. Enough of these loud motherfuckers. I want the soft guy back, and I want him to do some dentistry now. I did like the callback to how it the beginning of this Hush book reflected the beginning to the other Hush book. Like that was a cool callback of them doing a thing of just like, yeah, we're back. We're back with Hush. We get it. We're doing the thing again. It quickly turned on its head. We had some cool imagery with the Joker just getting his shit rocked. Batman's going to do the thing where he saves the Joker because there's no way they're going to kill off the Joker. Contractually, they can't do that. But, I mean, he is, for lack of a better word,
Greg,
basically dead.
I feel like you don't like this based on the principle that you think everyone else thinks that this was going to save comic books.
No.
And that's not, I don't think that's the case. I think like it's exciting to see Jim Lee's art and Jeff Loeb's words making good comic books.
Okay.
Nothing more, nothing less. I go
fine.
in and I'm like, this is comics, baby. They are like doing their shit that they do, and they do it well.
Okay. I didn't get that.
And I 100% think you're right. Like, you didn't get that? You didn't get... What part did you not get?
I did not get that emotional punch when I read this book.
Yeah, I think I did.
And that's fine. Like, totally.
I think I did.
Like, I get the sentiment that you're saying of just like, this is reminiscent of a time when us old heads were like really into like the breakthroughness of it all. Like, this is hearkening back to when Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb were just the biggest swinging dicks in the room. You know what I mean? And like, they were trying these new ideas. And now they're just older swinging dicks in the room, still captivating. Jim Lee has not missed it. I'm not arguing with that.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Jim Lee is a master of the craft. I'm not here to dispense or.
But you sound like
you
sound like you're mad about it.
I am pissed off at this because it doesn't need to happen.
It doesn't need to happen.
I don't want this storyline. It's so dumb.
Oh, Greg.
Can I make a small comparison here? I think I'm sort of getting what Greg is saying, and I tend to agree, honestly, a little bit, because I'm of the belief that Hush is not even a top 25 Batman story of all time. I have the receipts if you guys want to go through that. But the way that I sort of put this is that, like, I went to see Fleetwood Mac in concert about 3 years ago. If you guys know anything about Fleetwood Mac, they're in their 80s. They're old. Okay. Yeah. They fucking rock. And they still put on a great show, but Stevie Nicks had to walk off stage every 3 songs to catch her breath. All right. That kind of feels like what we're doing here. It kind of feels like, yeah, they're playing the hits and we know the hits and we remember the hits, but it doesn't hit the same because we're not at the time when those things happened. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like I get excited listening to a greatest hits album because that's what it is. It's all the best bangers in one spot. But
no. Here's what you guys are saying. You're saying that you went to see the Rolling Stones and they just played B-sides, not the greatest hits.
Okay. Yeah. I
right.
guess it's maybe more of a, yeah.
If we're saying that you like, Greg, what I kind of took away from this was like, you were saying we're wasting Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb on the character Hush, who you are like, why do I want to see them do Hush again?
Yeah.
Is that more your take?
My initial thing was like, I was never clamoring. And I'm not the biggest Batman fan in the room. Let's just get that out in the open. But I also wasn't clamoring to see Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb back at it in the saddle.
But they've only done one issue. And we're just saying because they're guys who've made comics before, you can't enjoy them making new comics?
Because it was pre-packaged to me through DC and all these adverts of just like, you should be fucking thankful. Like, look at what we're doing. Like, we brought the boys back together.
It's the attitude of the whole.
What do you fucking want?
It's the attitude of the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's two dudes creak into a couch in a fucking Twitter ad about how this is the greatest moment in comic book history. Like, are you insane? And this is no shade to Jeff Loeb or Jim Lee. I love those dudes. I will read their books all day. But the way this was presented to me of just like, you are going to fucking like go ahead and pre-order this all day, my man.
So
I'm with you.
So you're letting DC's marketing sully your enjoyment of this book.
No, I don't. I think I can speak for Greg and myself that like Hush is not an iconic Batman story. I think it's
also the Hush thing too. It's just like, ugh.
Hush is a commercially it's an essential legacy book. It sold well because Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb at that time were big creators. But I think if you were, let me contextualize this if I can really quickly. Let's let the air out of the room for a quick second and let me just list off.
Gotta take a minute.
Let me just list off what 25 stories that I think are better than Hush unequivocally. And you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree. Okay,
Is this really happening?
this is happening. Here we
Walking
go.
Dead #1.
You guys give me like a signal if you disagree with these. These are 25 Batman stories that I think are better than Hush without question. Okay, here we go. Long Halloween, another Jeff Loeb banger.
Easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ego by Darwin Cook.
I'm not familiar with
You ever
that
read that
one.
one? It's incredible. Year One,
Yeah.
Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Okay.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns, of course. Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth. I think is pretty unequivocally better. Joker's 5-Way Revenge, Dennis O'Neil, Neil Adams. I think it's a one single issue, but it's incredible. It's an iconic, I think, far better than this. Court of Owls, that's a safe one for me. That's the one that got me into comics.
Yep.
So
I think Court of Owls is the one for everyone. Like that's a lot of people's like #1 that around our age of just
Around
like
our
Court
age
of
group,
Owls
yeah.
just like fucking rocked my shit.
yeah.
Like,
Couple Ra's al Ghul classics. You got Son of the Demon, Birth of the Demon. I think both those books are far better than Hush, and they're more important to the Batman mythos overall.
yeah.
All My Enemies Against Me. You guys read that one? That was the Detective Comics 526. That's widely considered to be just like a all-encompassing Batman story. If you've read this one, you know that it's incredible. You've got maybe the greatest Two-Face story of all time. That's Batman 234, Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams. This is the story that like made Two-Face, right? You've got
a second face.
we got a second face. You've got Batman. This might be a hot take.
First appearance, second face.
This may be listeners at home. You guys tell me if you think this one's better than Hush. You've got Batman Universe, Brian Michael Bendis and Nick Darrington. That's a recent story. That is, I think, an iconic all-timer.
I don't think I've ever read that one.
It's really good. Everyone that's listening, if you read this, let us know if you think that that's as good. You got Under the Hood, Judd Winnick and Doug Mankey, of course. You got Batman War on Crime. That's the Paul Dini, Alex Ross. That's the oversized book they put out with the Wonder Woman and Superman story. I think that's better than Hush. You've got Blink, Dwayne McDuffie and Val Zemeckis, excuse me. A Lonely Place of Dying, Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Way better. What Happened to the Cape Crusader? Kind of a hot buzz thing here with Neil Gaiman.
I'm
being
going to
the
be
writer
so
on that one.
upset if number 26 is Hush.
I'm going to just say broadly, all of Grant Morrison's run from 2006 to 2013, better than Hush. Dark Victory, another Jeff Loeb classic. The Cult, Jim Starlin. Bernie Wrightson, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay. A Death in the Family, Jim Starlin again. Another one. Black Mirror, Scott Snyder and Jock, better than Hush. Shaman, which was the Legends of the Dark Knight, #1 through 5, Dennis O'Neil and Ed Hagan, and then John Beatty. Venom, another Dennis. Obviously, I love Dennis O'Neil. I apologize, everybody. Big Dennis O'Neil guy.
Yeah, just say you love Dennis O'Neil.
All of Dennis O'Neil is better than Hush. That's Venom is Dennis O'Neil and Jose Garcia Lopez. So,
okay.
Thoughts?
So I have also another question. What has Hush done to the greater mythos of Batman?
It's the Batman Superman fight. I think that's the best thing that happened.
Okay. Some thoughts. I think
Andy has entered the chat.
Well, so first of all, yes, all of Grant Morrison is better than Hush. Fine. I think unequivocally you don't get Court of Owls without Hush. Because there is so much that Court of Owls took inspiration from Hush.
But was not as a result of Hush, right?
I mean, yeah,
like Court of Owls did not have. Court of Owls could have happened if the Hush storyline didn't.
But it wouldn't have been the same story. Like, remember the first like 2-3 issues of Court of Owls are like Batman having a secret brother, and like that's or a best friend, whatever it was. Like that whole thing to me, even as I was reading it in the moment, I was like, oh, they're doing a Hush. Like they're
pulling a Hush over here.
Like,
they're
doing a Hush where it's like a person from Batman's past who is now influencing his future, right?
Yes,
right.
100%. Can I ask this then too?
Mm-hmm.
If not Hush,
Who?
then what? Are my options that Jim Lee is never allowed to create a comic again? Or are you he can't do the thing that he loves? or
Okay,
is
well,
there
when
a
you put it like
is there
that,
a
I sound like an asshole.
is there a scenario wherein Jim Lee doing X, Y, or Z with Batman instead of Hush is something that you're like, now I'm on board?
Yes, something new. If they had done something
Just
new, I
something
would have
new.
been happier with this. I just
Yeah.
don't
I could see
understand why they went
myself
back to Hush.
loving Mr. Freeze something with Jim Lee. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Mr. Freeze lately. And he's like kind of a legacy character, and that just goes back to like the tier that I put Hush on. Like it's just like,
God, I wish you were in the room when they were deciding what to do. When Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb were trying to
Oh my
figure
God.
out what
So
are we
why
going to
is-
do
no,
next.
Why is this getting
This guy
flipped
kicks
onto me?
This guy
all of a
kicks
sudden?
up his feet on the boardroom table and is like, you know who I always liked? Mr. Freeze. We haven't trotted him out in a minute.
As I'm wearing a Mr. Freeze shirt, Mr. Freeze shoes. You know, this might be a little bit out of left field for me.
The cold guy?
What about the guy that like turns to ice, like does ice stuff?
You got a
Arnold
shirt on that says
Schwarzenegger
Nora was
famously,
right.
made it
You
more
know what?
popular.
Now that you say it, God, you're so right.
I'm glad you're coming around to my thinking.
I'm gonna cancel my pre-orders for Hush to
No, I
Can
don't want
we-
you to do that because
can
if
we
you're getting
then-
enjoyment out of it, you should.
Should we ask then? So Vargas and Mike, you guys liked this first
Yeah.
installment in Hush 2.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just curious. I'm very similar to Greg in that like it's not bad. It's fucking Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. But
Yeah.
I just don't think this was the direction. I don't love that they went this direction. Like it's not bad, but it's not incredible. It didn't blow my mind. It didn't put me back into the early 2000s, but I just wish they would have done something different.
That they called it Hush 2. Could it be a different name?
Greg, I honestly think that if the marketing, I think if the marketing for the entire thing was different, you might not even balk as much at
maybe you're right.
If we didn't know going into this and this was just Batman number 158 or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and the reveal at the end of the issue was like Hush is back, then you might not have been like so appalled by it. But since it was like, start your engines, Hush has
Yeah.
returned.
Where
Like,
my
I
Hush
think-
stands at?
I think that's what's bristling. Like we should all be like thanking Christ that they've graced us with
Yeah.
Hush again.
Y'all
It's
ready to
kinda
get
like
hushed?
we had to fire Dan DiDio for this to get Hush 2 in here.
We had to murder
'Cause-
Chip Zdarsky to get this book going.
I honestly think I think Hush's like character design is kind of cool. I love Jim Lee drawing just like massive dudes like Silence, that
Silence was,
character that
Like, yeah.
blasts the Joker's eardrums. His power is blasting eardrums, and his name is Silence.
The
Like,
Black Bolt
this
of
is
the
like
DC
the
universe.
super arch type of shit that I was just like, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is like 90s comics. Like this is like what like a kind of simplicity that I love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
It's like Jim Lee watched Moana and was like, I want a bad version of Maui.
yeah, like
Dude.
I just enjoyed just like a big dude who is a fucking badass and was just like, I choose violence in every situation. Like
Mhm.
without like thought or provocation, I'm just like immediately destroying the Joker without like without entertaining a single joke from the guy.
Yeah.
So
Also-
go ahead.
Like, the Joker's alive, right?
It's a marketing thing, right?
But,
This is
like
all
if
like marketing.
if Hush
issue.
was like this guy,
Greg, this is every other comic book ever through the history of time. It's not just this book. James Tynion did the exact same thing in Joker War. I mean, I get being
Scott
frustrated
Snyder
that
did
like
the same thing. And
yeah, that like oh,
Definitely,
Batman's
Emily.
in a situation to save the Joker again. Like this is
And I
this is
didn't
not
like it then.
original. But and you cannot like it now, but it's not like I don't think it's fuel to the fire for this because it's par for the course, kind of.
Are we
Right,
just
and, like, well,
awakening to this thing, or what?
what?
Are we just awakening to this?
No.
Mirage that they're putting in front of
No,
us.
no. And
No?
that's not my problem of Batman having to save the Joker. I think we've fully diagnosed that my problem was the
marketing.
ham-fisted marketing of just like,
Yeah.
we know you're gonna fucking love this, and it's just like, you don't know I'm gonna love that, and also I'm not a huge Hush guy.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just wait for Matt Fraction to jump on, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think just the fact that they were they knew that this was going to succeed and be great. And I think at the end of the day, we're all going to look back on it and go, this is just Doomsday Clock. This is just, it's one of those things they thought was going to take over the world and it didn't.
Yeah, but Doomsday Clock is still good.
Yeah, I mean,
has the last issue come out yet?
Issue 13 is out next week.
I'm gonna suggest a ritual.
Oh God!
March 27th of every year,
Hush 2 Day.
We're coming back for Hush 2 a day.
Hush 2 a remembrance,
and we're gonna say. Even if it's just, if we can't get together for an episode, even if it's just a voice memo from you, Chris,
okay,
we're all gonna reevaluate where Hush stands.
Can I give another 25 Batman comics that I like more than Hush?
We force you to do that
every year. Every year it's another 25
stories that are worse than Hush. I want the back half of this.
All right, I can do that. I should say broadly really quickly, though, that I don't hate Hush, everybody. I just don't think it's one of the best.
But you did like Shaman and Gothic and like all like those were like 90s slappers of Batman stories.
Yeah.
So kids at home, go find them vintage.
Go read Colt
in the
right
dollar
now.
bin.
If you liked Hush 2, go read Colt and tell me what you think after that. Look at some
Colt.
Bernie Wrights and Batman and tell me what you think then.
Here's what I'm going to do.
It's not even done yet.
I know. And
you can't compare it with classics like when it's one issue.
Well, I had a couple single issues in there that I think are far better than this. All my enemies against me.
Wouldn't it be crazy? Wouldn't it be crazy if this is like the best Batman that's ever happened?
I would be happy to be wrong. I will be so happy.
Hat on my head.
I will relish in my wrongness if that's true. But I think
I will actually reserve judgment for this whole thing until I read it all, and I will give my full, honest review.
Alan Moore comes out of whatever hole
steps.
he's in, and he says, "Killing Joke who." Hush 2.
Like the main thing that should be said here is that this was not bad. Okay, it's just not. No. It is not the incredible thing that DC made us want to believe
yet.
Yeah.
Yet. Right.
Had the marketing not gone so hard, this probably would have landed a lot better. But like they built it up like it was just gonna explode off the shelf.
Fine.
Totally.
I am 100% fine with that take. Yeah.
Can I tell you something that no one promoted? No, everyone at DC was like, "We're not promoting this at all. We're just going to release it and see what." And if it lasts 4 issues, then that's fine. But we all loved it. Vargas, I'm going to pass it off to you here. What about Absolute Martian Manhunter?
Oh my God.
Which might be the best big 2 comic of the year so far.
Dude, it was so good. I read this book and I was like, this is just DC doing a Twilight Zone episode. And I loved every piece of it.
This is the power of when the big 2 don't get in their own way. When they don't care, when they're like, you know what, take this nothing character, take Mr. Miracle, take whoever, and just fucking
Hush
do whatever.
Coming out, do whatever you want.
We've got Hush 2 coming out over here. Dennis and Javier, you just do whatever the fuck you want with John Johns, and that's fine. And then all of us are like, Hush 2 can hang out over there. Yeah. Absolute Martian Manhunter is the fucking
like Hush 2.
Well, what I couldn't believe was that they teased Absolute Hush at the end.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Now that I loved.
Yeah.
No,
actually a bandage person made of human skin.
I bought the book for the art and I stayed for the story, which is
I love Javier Rodriguez.
Dude, that artwork was nuts.
Did you guys read Zatanna?
Up every panel that story was doing.
Did you guys read the Zatanna book he recently put out with Mariko Tamaki?
Yes.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
And this is equally as good. Did you guys have I know Vargas, you read it. Did you, Mike and Greg, did you guys read this?
Yep. I ended up reading it.
I haven't yet.
How many times did you read it?
A lot of words, which I usually am against, but a lot of good words.
Those final 2 pages, I think, is one of the coolest.
It totally sells it. Like, oh my God! Like the whole time, it's a story of confusion and like a man trying to figure out what is happening to his mind? Is he like going crazy? Does he have a concussion? And like all the while, you get this like funky like 60s art deco like freak out style that's like slowly taking over the book. And the last final pages are like, holy fuck, I am like totally bought in on whatever this book is going to be.
Mm-hmm. And also the variant. I know that I don't really know what your guys' thoughts are on variants. I don't like to indulge in them when I can help it, but the variants that they put out this week, it was hard not to buy every single one of them.
I wanted that the David Asia variant so bad, but it was $25.
I bought the Daniel Warren Johnson one, the 1 in 50, because I couldn't not buy it.
Yeah.
It was only $30, which is still too much, but honestly not as bad as it could have been. Yeah. But also Jorge Fornes had a exclusive, and again, I don't like to invest in like the comic book store exclusive, but you put Jorge Fornes on a cover, I'm going to buy it. So
was it Frankie's Comics?
It was Frankie's Comics, everybody. Go to the Patreon if you want to know that
a
reference.
Patreon joke.
But yeah, the cover is incredible. They announced earlier today on Blue Sky that I don't know if this was pre-planned or what, but they said on Blue Sky that because of the sort of reaction to this first issue that it's been promoted to a 12 issue mini.
Hell yeah.
So we're getting at least 12 issues of this book.
I want to try and vocalize the bit that's on the last page.
Yeah. Try to explain that one.
So throughout the book, you get this guy, like Greg said, kind of going through his life, and he's got this like crazy 60s colors. And he is seeing smoke that other people are not. And you get the vibe that this is him either reading people's minds or thoughts or emotions throughout the book. And then at the end, the book instructs you to activate your Martian vision and hold up the last page. I'll put it on the screen for the viewers. But it's just a single page of our main character with his battered and bruised body after the explosion that starts the issue lying on the ground. Tells you to take that page and hold it up to the light. And then on the reverse of that page, this is something you can only do in a physical comic medium, and it's so brilliant. It's this Martian Manhunter in reverse. It's a mirror image of the previous page. So when you hold it up to the light and you shine a light through it, you get both images coming through at the same time, showing the Martian Manhunter over John Johns, which I get the impression that this is going to be more of like this. John Johns is not a costume that Martian Manhunter puts on. It is some sort of like a Thor Donald Blake situation where they are two separate entities that communicate with each other. But the gimmick,
it's not like sold as like an invasion of the body snatchers type kind of story. Of like,
I don't know.
The two are trying to live in the same body together.
I think it's more of a Hulk thing where someone has their hand on the wheel while the other one's in the trunk.
Okay, all right.
And the other one, and they just flip back and forth depending on the moment and what's going on. But what I'm curious about, because you, again, speaking on the covers and obviously Javier Rodriguez's incredible reimagining of this character, is the design is pretty intense. I want to see this character drawn in the house style. Like I want to see Daniel Sampier draw this design. It's basically just a green
like
guy
with fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Just a big red eye in the middle of his face. And I'm just like, I don't know how you translate that among like normal looking folks in a book. You know what I mean? Because this book is
only
so
do it in the absolute verse.
Right. And is this sort of, what does this have to say just based on our conversation? Because I'm a listener of the show, and we're all quick to give the absolute universe their flowers, as we should. They've absolutely murdered it. I mean, you could make an argument that Absolute Superman is the worst book of the four, and that's freaking Jason Aaron. So
it's still outselling everything.
Right. So like, what does this have to say that? And on the Patreon, I admitted this, how I don't read any Superman here recently, at least. Batman is sort of in a flux with Hush, and then eventually Matt Fraction. Wonder Woman is pretty good, but it's not a big seller with Daniel Sampier and Tom King on the book. However, Absolute Wonder Woman, killing it. Absolute Batman, probably the hottest book on the market. Absolute Superman, of course, as we said. And now Absolute Martian Manhunter. I promise you, everybody, listen to this right now. If they put out a Martian Manhunter book, it would get 4 issues and it would fail.
Yeah.
But this Absolute line does something really interesting. You know, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting that it's almost exactly like the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel, where the ongoing books were sort of floundering, and then the Ultimate Universe came in and just absolutely murdered it for a bit.
It's just the marketing of something new and fresh, and that doesn't have all the baggage of all the old stuff. Just gets people like stoked. I also think like how much some of the absolute like variants were selling for early on just has collectors in kind of a frenzy for all of these books now. That like, is this the next one that's gonna pop off? Is this the next one that's gonna pop off? I might as well buy it just in case.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that to it, that people are just ordering the absolute hell out of all of these.
I kind of liken it to like if these books were just coming out like on Vertigo. Like this is like their indie A24 shit of just like, yeah, this isn't messing with like canon stuff. So like go be goofy. Like go try something weird. Go do this Hulk version of Martian Manhunter. Go make, Batman built like a fucking brick house. Like go do it now, because you can't do it on the main line.
Yeah.
Well, and
they should.
I think the Martian Manhunter felt to me the same way something like Fraction in Asia's Hawkeye felt, where it was just so visually unique from other comic books on the shelves that I had to purchase it. Like it was like, I have to see what this is. And then you open it up and the story is like equal to the art. You don't get that very often.
Yeah.
I was
here with Javier.
Yeah, I was just blown away by it.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's like it's a matter of just like, because you can't do it all the time. DC can't just be like, all right, go fucking crazy, like, because that doesn't sell books all the time.
Right.
But like when they're allowed to just like be cheeky every once in a while, like every 6 months, like that's the books that just go off, because people get so used to the house style. They're just like, no, I want something a little fucking weirder.
Yeah.
And then we get to just revel in it.
Yeah.
Let's rip through the rest of the books, because we're at $120.
Oh shit! All right,
we've done 3 hours here on the First Issue Club.
Yeah, I know.
Well, can I push a quick one here? And I don't know if you guys read this one, but we had the Peacemaker Presents the Vigilante Eagerly double feature #1. Did you guys read that one?
No.
This was a one shot that had a pretty awesome creative team. You had Tim Seeley and Mitch Garrod on the initial story about Vigilante. And I honestly believe that, like, Mitch, if you give him 6 to 8 months to draw one issue, he will absolutely murder it. And he did it with this book. Like, this is one of the best looking Mitch books I've seen here. Like, if you go back and look at, like, I would say pre Mr. Miracle, which he did that book with Tom. What's the Sheriff of Babylon?
Sheriff of Babylon. Yeah.
Oh, Sheriff Babylon.
Yeah. If you just go look at Sheriff of Babylon and then you look at this and you look at his recent Batman book that he did with Tom, the Brave and the Bold side story they did, it is night and day. Mitch is completely leveled up again if you give him half a year to do it. So it's awesome. There's also a like 1-page diary entry from Freddie Stroma, who is Vigilante in the Peacemaker show.
Cool.
So he had some influence in this. James Gunn apparently was like a story. He basically gave direction on both of these. It's a 2-story first issue. So it's oversized. The second book, or the second story, is oh shoot, I'm spacing it now. Peaceful Vacation is the name of it. Writer is Rex Ogle. Artist is Matteo Loli. Didn't love that one as much. Not bad, obviously, but it's just not as impressive as A Time for Fables, which is the Seeley Garrod story. So I recommend it if you were a fan of the TV show, which I think you should be. If you're not somehow, please write in to the First Issue Club, because I want to talk to you.
Hold on.
But I will say that, yeah, this is pretty cool. And it gives weight to a character that I never thought that I would be interested in a Vigilante book. Not since the Ostrander books from the 80s. But so, yeah, it's worth a pickup.
Right on.
Anything
I'll
else?
say I read You'll Do Bad Things #1.
Yeah, Tyler
which
Boss.
is Tyler Boss book, and
Really good.
man, was gorgeous. And I love a book that makes like really bold color choices.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is just like all kinds of different shades of color that set this like awesome nighttime tone that's like really frenetic and in a good way. It could be about nothing, and I would just read this.
Mm-hmm.
But it is about something. It's about an author who garnered a lot of fame writing about a true crime book about a serial killer 10 years ago, and he keeps trying to write other stuff and like kind of can't get anything off the ground, and he keeps trying to write fiction and like basic romance or adventure books, and then keeps killing off all of the characters because he can't get past this like killer thing that's like burdening him. And then I think what we're meant to take away from the first issue is that some of these things and that he's writing end up happening in real life. So there's like some sort of ethereal force that is either making him write these things that end up happening, or him writing them is this power that's manifesting in the real world. And it just creates this like, I don't know, big, like vague, creepy, eerie story that's just really pretty. So
Yeah.
big
Tu-
recommend for horror fans.
Tutuchuli, I think is how you say his last name. He's a
Yeah.
killer in this book. And I
Yeah,
think
so good.
if you're a fan of like stalker slasher films, this will be right up your alley. Either that, or if you're just like a big design nerd, because Tyler Boss he's a designer.
Yeah.
He's a writer, he's an artist, he's a designer. He designed a lot of Matthew Rosenberg's books from back in the day. So if you're a fan of any of that, at least give this first issue a read and see what your thoughts are.
Totally.
What else? Anything?
I
Anything
read
else for anybody?
a lot of other stuff. I picked up the next Universal Monsters book, The Mummy, which was very cool. So Faith Aaron Hicks did the story and art.
Ooh, double duty.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated by books like this where it's like a single person's like vision of what a story should be.
She did a lot of the Avatar stuff over at Dark Horse, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's right. And I love those books. Those were so good. Cool twist on it, like most of the other Universal Monsters stuff. We get a story of a half British, half Egyptian girl living in Cairo who has some sort of mysterious connection to the mummy that is released upon the city. So check it out. I really liked it. If you liked the other Universal Monsters stuff, you'll like this. It is
Those books are really easy to sort of just pick up.
Yes.
Like what Skybound has done really well with all these Universal Monster books is they just said like, hey, you've seen The Mummy, give this a read. They're really easy to read. They're not super wordy. There's not like a ton. They're not heady. They're just basic Universal Monster books.
Yeah, but they're
The original Hush.
Hush could never. Hush could never. Yeah, they're familiar enough. You don't have to like invest in the history of what the mummy is, but it's also like its own story. You're not just getting a retelling of what the movies were. So really good stuff. I also read Mouse Guard, the Dawn of the Black Axe, because I had never read a Mouse Guard book before. So this was a real treat. I didn't know anything about it going in, but it's about a little mouse whose family gets killed, and he creates this black axe. And one of the titular Mouse Guard takes up his quest to kill the 5 snakes that killed that blacksmith's family. But they're all little mice, so it's kind of cute. But
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Mouse Guard like started out as like a novel or like a kid's series or something?
It's a comic. I looked into it, and there's
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just confusing Redwall and Mouse Guard, but it's like of the same, just like cute woodland creatures.
Well, this was very Game of Thrones. I'll say that.
That's what I mean, like set in the like a fantasy world of like maybe not Game of Thrones, but definitely in that in that kind of.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yes, it was very Lord of the Rings. How about that?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's something. I didn't read it, but this might be interesting to you guys. You won't believe this, but there was a brand new Vampirella #1 that came out this week. There were 17 covers, one of them which was Greg Land, and Christopher Priest is writing it. So there's a little nugget for you.
Perfect. Great.
I used to love Christopher Priest.
Yeah.
The last book I read that I want to mention is The Kids by Garth Ennis and Dalbor
Oh, yeah.
Taljic.
Was that the oversized one?
Yep.
That came out? Yeah.
And the reason I want to bring it up is because it's by this Image. It's either an imprint or a company that's being published by Image called Ninth Circle.
Yeah.
And they're doing one-shot horror books every month from different creative teams, different stories every time. This was the first one I had seen, or at least picked up from them. But that's probably something I will check out more, because oversized one-shot horror for $8 a month is like kind of right up my alley. So
Is Saladin Ahmed a part of that as well? I think I remember seeing them like when they first announced the Ninth Circle thing, that there was like a bunch of like horror writers and stuff that were getting together at Image to do their kind of like
maybe
giant generator thing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But The Kids was cool. It's the elevator pitch is, what if every kid under 1 year old suddenly became like a 25-year-old overnight. And
big two.
It kind of reads like a Walking Dead or Crossed or something, because they don't have like the skills that a 20-something person would have. They still have
your life.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't know how to feed themselves. They don't know how to like walk downstairs. They don't know how to like, there's one horrifying scene where a guy's just
like
walking
Big.
around. Yeah, well, it's like Big, but you're 1 year old. There's a terrifying scene where a guy's just walking around with his finger like in his eyeball, like all the way, and the dad's
Very
like,
cool.
That's why we tell kids not to put their finger in their eye.
Holy
So yeah,
That's some Garth Ennis shit right there.
it's very, very Garth Ennis. So it's a story of a family whose infant this happens to, and they kind of just like drive around the city trying to like figure out what's going on. It's a one-shot book, so your cost of entry is very low. If you're a horror fan, I would recommend picking it up. And all this Ninth Circle stuff really feels like it's going to be a good outlet for stories that maybe don't have the legs for like even a 4-issue. Like I don't know where this book would go. I would trust Garth Ennis with my under 1 year old child, but I know not a lot of people would. Yeah, so Ninth Circle stuff is cool. The Kids, very cool. Pick it up, check it out.
You're telling me the villain is Age when it could have been Dr. Freeze?
Mr. Freeze, you.
Vincent Von Freeze.
I think we.
Why does he earns a doctorate and he goes by Mr. Freeze? What kind of a
because he's
lunatic?
My father. That's Doctor.
Yeah. I'm the cool Mr. Freeze. Don't Doctor puts me on a pedestal that is like
he's just one of the guys.
unattainable.
He's one of the guys.
Yeah, that's right. Someone you can just kick back and have a beer with.
I'll say this.
a cold beer.
Hush makes people call him a doctor. He said, I
He
didn't
hasn't
go to
even gone back
7
to
years
school.
of villain school.
He only has an associate's degree, and he
enough
makes
to
everybody call him a doctor.
Yeah. I got my associates in
He's a
basket
dentist.
weaving.
He's only got his associates in general studies, and he still makes people call him a doctor.
Marketing and graphics design.
Can I give one more quick recommendation for everybody?
Totally.
And it's sort of a shameless brag here, or shameless plug, I guess you could say. Free for All #1 from Patrick Horvath over at Oni Press came out this week.
Yeah,
it is a 56-page giant. I mean, I don't say this lightly, everybody. This is a perfect comic. I'm just gonna tell you, it's amazing. It is.
Oh.
If you liked Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, this is right up your alley. And I'm gonna pitch it very, very quickly, very simply. What if billionaires were made to fight in a gladiatorial arena to keep their riches? And if they lost, here's the thing: you can either give up half your earnings to the world, or you can fight to keep it. That's sort of the pitch here. So and it's a thing that we should implement tomorrow is what I'm trying to say. And Patrick Horvath is just, I think, one of our greater singular voices in comics currently. So definitely go check out Free for All if you haven't.
Oh,
Hey,
check it.
Hey,
I
Chris.
backed
Oh,
I backed it, and this was one of the rewards I got, a tiny watercolor. He
Very
did.
That's
cool.
dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
really wish I would have backed it. I'm bummed that I missed that. But Mike, do you agree? Or is this something that you would recommend?
Oh,
to
it's
folks?
so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really rad.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chris, do you know of a podcast where I could like listen to maybe an interview with Patrick about this book?
You know, it's funny. I do. It's called Comic Book Couples Counseling. Go check them out. New episodes every Wednesday.
Give me a break. No, they're not on the show. They can't do that. Cut that in post.
Cut it in post. All right, that's all I
Chris,
got.
Excellent
Truly, where
work.
can people find you?
What'd you say, Greg?
You need to pimp yourself. Where can people
Yeah,
find
man.
you?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you three for letting me on the show. I appreciate it. You know, one thing that I was bummed about with Planet is that we didn't get to do an in-person recording, but that's something we need to plan for next year in 2026 to record an episode together in person. So,
Yeah.
not to mention, I want to see all of your guys' goodies that you have, you know, at your houses, your collections and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
So,
You have to do like a tour.
oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Tour to room.
We'll just do a bar crawl to each of our house, each of your guys' houses,
Yeah.
to all
Have
for all the
same
goodies.
Uber driver.
But okay, so if you want to hear more of my shenanigans over at the Oblivion Bar, you can go to the oblivionbarpodcast.com. New episodes every Monday. My co-host Aaron and I, we basically do a weekend review of all things nerd. So if you like what everybody does here on the First Issue Club, you get more of that over on the Oblivion Bar. We do sort of dabble in creator interviews like what Greg did with Matthew Rosenberger a couple weeks ago. We'll do movie reviews. We do a segment called Battle Royale, where we will take 5 random fighters across all fiction and put them up against each other. We have to sort of debate on who would win, and we give them like random scenarios with like zero gravity or water arena or what have you. So we'll actually be doing another one of those in a couple weeks. We recently had, let's see here, who's some of the folks we had on recently? We've had Matt Fraction and Michael Allred on the show recently. We had Patrick Horvath, we just spoke on a moment ago. I'm pulling up the Oblivion Bar podcast really quickly.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have to say one thing about the Michael Allred thing, which you haven't said yet, which is still the craziest thing I've ever seen. He did the entire interview laying down.
Yeah.
Like
on his
the
belly.
video is of him just like on his belly with his feet kicked up talking into a microphone.
Yeah.
On like, did he have like a mirrored disco floor thing?
Yep. He
It's
had like
so wild.
like a crazy, like knee, like it almost looked like from the 70s, like totally
Yeah.
Saturday Night Fever type of floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if it was anyone else, I would be like, that's crazy. But it was Mike Allred, and I was like, that fucking tracks.
Sounds
Like,
about right.
That was
Hell
an Oblivion
yes.
Bar first, for sure. We do a segment called Midnight Rewind where we'll talk about an old anime that we really love. So we've done Princess Mononoke and Paprika before, but most recently we did Akira, which I can see behind Greg here to the right. He's got a really awesome Akira poster. So we basically just deep dive into it. It's not a review. It's more of just like a celebration of that particular thing. We've talked to Christopher Cantwell and Tyler Crook on the show recently about their book Out of Alcatraz from Oni Press. Danny Earls, who I'm a big fan of and I think is going to be one of our... I would be surprised if he doesn't have a Eisner for cover artist in a couple years, if he doesn't have it next year.
Pin that moment. Pin it right here so we can do the soundbite for Chris when he called it.
We've got Kurt Pyers coming on the show here in a couple of weeks. A lot of cool things.
I love Kurt. Kurt,
yeah.
His new what's that new fantasy book he has coming out?
Lost Fantasy coming out in April.
That's gonna fucking level people.
Yep, I've already read it. It's amazing. I think it's again talk about like a perfect first issue. Lost Fantasy. Be on the lookout for that. So enough plugging. OblivionBarPodcast.com. Go check it out.
Mike, take us home.
To the MCU, save Cersei, Druid, Kingo, and January Jones as Emma Frost. We'll see you next time. Bye. First Issue Club podcast is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, the people responsible for our favorite drinks, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA family of beers. Our show is edited and produced by our hosts Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtag, and Andy Vargas. You can find us on social media at First Issue Club, and you can join the supporters who keep our humble podcast going on our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub.